What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Friday the 13th review on Friday. That's right, we're doing the whole series. If you haven't watched any of them yet, part 1 and 2 already came out the previous 2 Fridays. But on this Friday, we are talking about Friday the 13th, part 3D. That's right, they filmed it in 3D. Certain portions of it will be like this. For way too goddamn long. Let's do the review.
Count on it.
And so, guys, Friday the 13th, Part 3 takes place right after the events of Friday the 13th, Part 2, but that's the end of the connection. Like, I'm happy that there's a connective tissue there. I really am. They're like, hey, Friday the 13th, Part 2 just happened. A lot of people dead, and Jason's on the run, but that's it. They don't talk about, like, there were a lot of characters in Part 2, and I'm just jumping into it here. There were a lot of characters in Part 2 that lived, like, they were out drinking, having a good time, and never made it back to the cabin. And I thought maybe, okay, Part 3 will pick up on their story, and it doesn't. Now, maybe 4 does. Still holding out hope. Okay, never seen these movies before. I'm hoping Part 4 does, but Part 3 just moved on. Like, we had what happened in Part 2, the girl gets carted away, and then Part 3 happens, it's the same night, and you see the store owner and the store owner's wife get murdered by Jason, and then we move on to a new group of people going camping. Now, it doesn't specifically say they're going to Camp Crystal Lake, but they're going camping in the general area. You would think at this point it's partially the police department's fault for not shutting down all camping within the state. They're like, listen, we just absolutely can't have people camping right now. There's a crazy killer on the loose. He is going after campers. Stay out of camping. But whatever, they go. And while they're at the camp, of course, Jason, on the run, stops by their camp to slaughter everyone, seemingly for no reason. Like, in Part 1, it turned out to be Pamela Voorhees. In Part 2, turns out that it's Jason, and they're messing around right next door to his camp. So he's like, you know what, I can't have this. People are coming in my little shack. I'm killing everybody. So you understand where Jason's coming from. But on Part 3, while he's a maniac on the run and just happens upon this campground and hides out in their barn for the majority of the movie, which, by the way, there's a barn in the campground, not sure why. They kind of try to explain it away with bales of hay at one point. They're like, yeah, why is there all this hay in this barn? They're like, oh, my dad always talking about, like, wanting to buy horses, but he always buys the hay and never the horses. And it's like, all right, but that's not a good explanation. Whatever, cool. There's a barn there so that Jason can basically do the majority of his hiding in there for the majority of the movie. Plus, they can have a really cool action scene toward the end of this movie. That's basically the synopsis of this movie, guys. That right there is what I gave you. It's a bunch of campers who come out, and it's just new people for Jason to chew through, right? Jason to just sink his teeth into and finish off here at this camp because Jason is currently on the run. It's kind of an interesting concept, but that's all the concept. Like, there's nothing more to it than that. So if you're here for anything more than that, you shouldn't be, because it's a Friday the 13th movie, but, you know, that's all you're going to get. Movie's not all bad, though. I've got some things I liked about it, and I will jump into those right now. The first thing I'll say I liked about this movie is the pacing. Coming off of Part 2, I thought Part 2, the pacing was one of the worst things about it. I think it hurt it the most. Even the dated kills, you look back, you're like, okay, I understand I'm watching an older horror movie. It just is what it is in Part 2, right? But in Part 3, at least the pacing goes. Like, it started kind of slow, and I was like, uh-oh, I wonder if this movie's going to be slow paced. But it's not. They jump to kill, to kill, to kill, to kill, to kill, to kill, all the way to the final girl. And then, of course, Jason has a hard time beating the final girl because that's just the way these movies are, and that's fine. But I did enjoy the pace of this movie way more than Part 1 or Part 2. I feel like it's starting to find its stride in the series. Like, okay, this is how we're going to keep audiences interested as long as we keep the pace going at this rate. I'm hoping that they keep going, like Part 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I really hope that they keep this pace going. Second thing I really enjoyed about this is we got rid of first person mode. I really was just over it, and when it started, I felt like they were going to do that, but they didn't. I like that you don't see Jason's head for the majority of the first half of the movie because he still hasn't found a new mask. Like, he lost the bag head in Part 2, and I liked that until he finds the mask in this movie, you don't see his head yet, but you know it's Jason, you know he's going around, you know he's killing people, and I liked that a lot. I liked seeing the kills this time. That was my biggest issue with Part 1 and 2, was that every kill was first person, and it just, you saw the blade of the knife. It just just wasn't any good. I didn't like that. It was a bad style. It was interesting at first in the first movie. When it continued on and then it continued into the second movie, I was like, all right, we need to get away from this. And they do. And I like that about this movie. I like actually getting to see the killer kill the people he's looking to kill. On that note, the third and final thing that I really liked about this movie is we finally get to see the iconic mask. Yeah, it's not 100% where we eventually see this mask going, but to start, I like that it's clean. It hasn't gotten any nicks or bruises yet. I like that. Like, it's just a prop. There's a fat guy in the movie who keeps pulling pranks on all his friends, and at one point he's underneath a pier and he grabs this girl's leg and he's got the iconic hockey mask on, and I was like, oh cool, this is the movie we're gonna get to see Jason put the hockey mask on. And he's also got a harpoon gun. Now, I bring up the harpoon gun because it's my wife's favorite part of this movie. For whatever reason, my wife likes when bow and arrows or harpoon guns or spears are used in a horror movie. I don't know why, but that's always her favorite part. So as soon as I saw the harpoon gun with her, she was like, oh, cool. And then when he actually uses it in this movie, when Jason uses it to shoot the eye of that girl, like, that was her favorite part, and I just wanted to mention that as my wife's favorite part of this movie. But yeah, I was happy that they finally introduced the iconic hockey mask, and I'm looking forward to the next installment. But with the good comes the bad, and I've got to jump into the things I disliked about this movie. The first thing's a little bit of a nitpick, so I'll just touch on it and then we'll move on, but it's how dirty the camera is in certain scenes of this movie. Did you not have anybody set up to clean the cameras? There are certain scenes in this movie where there are spots. I thought my TV was dirty. I had to get up and look at my TV, and my wife was like, no, it would have been in the other scene. It's not the TV. There are dirty spots on the camera lens when they're filming certain portions of this movie, and I'm like, what? Why is this okay? Well, why didn't you guys think about this beforehand? You had no one there to just make sure the lens was clean? But that's a nitpick. I'll move on. The next thing's a little bit of a nitpick as well. Again, I'm just going to knock it out real quick. It's something I'm personally done with seeing in the series, and hopefully we don't get any more of, and that is death by bed. It's just the first movie, you had Kevin Bacon killed right through. He had like an arrow come through. The second movie, you had a spear go through the two people who were banging on a bed. And then in this movie, you get the girl who lays on the hammock, and then the machete comes through her chest. It's just that scene, that kill, that death has been done enough. 3 times, let's not do it anymore. I don't want to see it in the series anymore. If it happens in part 4, I will gripe about it in part 4, I guarantee you. I have 2 big dislikes for this movie. The first one is the characters' decisions within the movie. I know it comes down to bad writing, and I know we don't go into this movie for the writing of these movies. We go into to see Jason tear some people up. I get it. But like, every single person in this movie must have been like a huge Scooby-Doo fan, because every single time something goes wrong, they're like, hey, let's split up. I know 2 of us would be better in this situation. Let's completely split up. Like, every single time. There's not one death in this movie that happens as a result of 2 people sticking together. In fact, there's a point where 2 people are able to gain up on Jason and they get the upper hand. And it's like, all right, so then don't split up. Like, this is just, it's lazy. And that brings me to the final thing outside of 3D, which never should have happened. I'm just going to toss that in there real quick. 3D never should happen for this movie. But the final thing that I really disliked about this movie is that lazy ass ending, which is the 3rd lazy ass ending in this series. Look, I'm not doing this review series to hate on Friday the 13th. I liked this movie way more than I liked part 1 and 2, just to be clear. But the ending of this movie is so lazy, again, with the fake out. In the first movie, you had young Jason come over and grab the girl into the water. In the second movie, you had Goonies-looking Jason come through the window and grab the girl. Both of those were fake outs. Both of those never happened. And in this movie, here we go again. The girl sails out onto the lake. You see a fake out with Jason. You're like, okay, at least it's not somebody coming out of the water. And there's Pamela Voorhees' skeleton, which shouldn't even be a thing because she lost her head, coming out of the water and dragging her down. And at this point, it's just, I don't believe you. I'm just sitting there like, okay, yep, let's wait till the next scene. Oh, there it is. She's going hysterical. She was never in the water. No one was ever in the water. Wow, shocking. Like, it's so annoying that they're doing these fake outs at the end of these movies. It's just lazy. So on top of the bad writing for the characters in this movie and the poor character decisions that were given to these characters, you have a lazy ass ending. Now, like I said, I stay optimistic. I hope part 4 is better, and I will review part 4 next Friday. Overall, I didn't hate this movie. I really didn't. I liked this movie more than I liked the other 2. I would rewatch this movie before rewatching the other 2. But it's just laziness that just drives me up a wall. And that's my review on Friday the 13th, Part 3. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the share button if you want your friends to see it. If you've seen Friday the 13th, Part 3, D, and you want to put your thoughts and your comments in the comment section down below, well, go ahead and do that. I'm curious to know what you guys thought of it. Again, I'm not coming into this looking for artistic movies. I just want character decisions to make sense, and I just want a non-lazy ending, because so far, 3 lazy endings in a row, it's getting annoying. And finally, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that, because if you liked this content and you want to see more from my channel, then subscribe, because I got a ton of content coming your way, including Friday the 13th, Part 4, next weekend. I'm excited to do that one with you guys. The final chapter. Clearly not, but they called it that. All right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. So I was just editing my review here for Friday the 13th Part 3, and I noticed that my shed door is open. And I don't remember leaving it like that. I should go check it out. What's worse could happen?